Well, I'm gonna assume that it's just gonna be you two today, which is fine. I posted the Google slide on the group me too. So it's already there if you guys want to look at it, but let me try and share my screen really quick. If it'll let me. Can you guys see the thing? Whatever it's called, slideshow? Can't tell. Can you see? You can't. Okay. It goes back and forth. Okay, let's do presenter view. Okay, so one of the questions you guys had asked was like practice examples and different situations of adaptions that you would make in therapy for a client with emerging phonology. So for a client with emerging phonology, they usually have like pretty consistent unintelligibility and limited consonant inventories. Um, so it's more about increasing the variety and frequency of sound productions rather than like mastery over sound production. And a lot of these adaptions focus on like play-based therapy, high repetition of things, multisensory strategies, stuff like that. Um, so I found some examples of like different things that you would do, and I thought these were really good. And honestly, like these will be good for different therapy situations that you'll do. So like if the child has a limited consonant inventory, you would use like a sound zoo. So I thought this was really interesting. Basically, like you assign a sound to a certain animal and you try to encourage the child to make the sound even if it's not perfect. So the ultimate goal is to turn an unstimulable sound into a more stimulable sound. Um, so it's more or less instead of like trying to completely master something just to get it to be more common in the kid's inventory and like make it more consistent. And then another situation would be if a child uses final consonant deletion, you would use this kind of goes back to like what Dr. Arnold was saying in class today with the minimal pairs. You could use early minimal pairs in play and use contrastive words while playing with them to show that like the end of words changes the meaning of the words and not just like it's not just any word. So kind of like the ton for sun type of thing. So I thought those two were really interesting or and good examples. Are there any questions on like these two slides because they kind of go together? If not, then we'll go to the next. Okay, another question was, are standardized speech assessments and articulation testing the same thing? And they're not, although they're pretty similar, so like they're kind of hard to tell apart. Articulation testing is more or less evaluating a person's ability to produce individual speech sounds correctly. And it identifies different errors like substitutions, distortions, or omissions. Um, so it's more of a specific type of assessment which can be standardized or not, but it's like solely focused on the physical production of speech sounds. Whereas the standardized speech assessment is a broader, more formal tool used to compare the child's performance to peers of the same age. Um, so looking at articulation and sound patterns and their overall intelligibility, and these are usually norm referenced tools that are like standardized tests. So that's kind of the difference between the two of those.
I had a question on that one.
Yeah.
So the reason why I asked it was in the so for the study guide, one of the questions was what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of articulation testing as opposed to connected speech sample? And
Hmm.
where it was at, like in the book, where the answer was aligned with, it only talked about like the advantages and disadvantages of the standardized speech assessment, and then it went to connected speech. So I didn't know if like that question, when it said articulation testing, if it was referring to when the book said standardized speech assessment, or
Hmm.
if they were like relatively similar in that aspect.
Yeah, so they're pretty similar. So I feel like I do remember us talking about this or it being like kind of in our conversations when I took the class. They're like super similar. It's just one is more to base it off of like peers, and I feel like articulation testing is more individual. I with like the child's inventory and stuff like that, and like their speech sounds, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like that's where the difference is between those two.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. How did the different findings of evaluation of the speech mechanism change in therapy? So for this, it's more or less just like after that like oral mechanism testing and you look at all the functions of the oral part of the mouth and everything, um, it allows the therapist to figure out what specifically they need to target and how to address the certain reasons behind client's speech sound errors and stuff like that. So looking at the structural or functional issues. So like two examples of this, if they had a structural abnormality like a cleft palate, they would focus on different things that would help that specific abnormality. So like someone with a cleft palate versus someone with not, they're gonna work on different things because a cleft palate is gonna be different than you have a dental difference. It's all kind of different. And then for like neuromuscular weakness or poor coordination, therapy would emphasize strengthening the muscles and improving the muscle or the movement range and building motor control of the lips and the tongue and focusing more on the strength of those movements, whereas they're gonna focus with more specialists in a craniofacial team for different other structural abnormalities, if that kind of makes sense. So it just gives the therapist a more like zoned in area of like what they need to focus on and how they can go about looking at those different errors and um stuff like that, if that makes sense.
I have a
Okay.
question. I don't know if you'd be able to answer this or not, but what would be like an example of something you would do to help them like improve motor control or like muscle of like the tongue or the lips or something? Like how would you strengthen that?
Honestly, that's a really good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think we ever learned about it. I think that's something I'll end up learning in grad school. My guess would be something along the lines of like touching your tongue like to the roof of your mouth like multiple times or reaching your tongue like in and out and moving it side to side because I feel like that would be like where the weakness would be, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I feel like it would be something like that is my first thought. I'm not really sure though, because you can't like use weights like weightlifting, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I think it would just be more or less like range of motion and like repetition, because it's still
Okay.
like it would be like using body weight and like exercises, kind of it's that type of thing. So I think that's how that would work. That would be a really good question though to ask Dr. Arnold. I'll have to think about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay. And then the last one of the questions that you guys had was, is the reason stimulability is so important because it shows what the client is getting close to saying, and are there other reasons why it's so important? So stimulability, of course, is important, and a primary reason it is so important is because it identifies which sound a client can produce or closely approximate when they're given a model. And so they're kind of indicating that these sounds are in their like zone of proximal development or like they can say them. So they're like ready to be acquired and like they're able to, you know what I mean? So like if they can say an S in a certain word in like the middle of the word, but they can't say it at the beginning of the word, you know that they have the S sound and they can say it. So you can work on it at the beginning and they'll get there type of thing. Um, so it's definitely important. And I feel like that would, like, those are the main reasons it's so important. It just shows that it's in the child's inventory. Um, and it's there. We just gotta like bring it out of the child, if that makes sense.
So I know there's different approaches, but typically you target stimulatable sounds first because they're so close to getting them, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Because they are so like close to getting them, like if you know that they say it in the middle of the word, it's probably not going to take super long for them to get it in the beginning of a word or the end of a word. And it's already in their inventory. It's just a matter of bringing it out at the beginning or end or wherever they're having issues. So, are there any other questions that you guys had over like the book or projects or anything like that that you can think of?
I think that's all I had.
How are you guys feeling about the projects and everything so far? Kind of okay?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. She keeps talking about 4 and then especially 5, the lesson plan, but
Yeah. They're not too bad. I keep trying to go through and add like step-by-step directions kind of for those. I know there's already directions like in them, but she wanted me to go through and kind of add to it and just make it a little more simple. Um,
mm-hmm.
but if you guys ever need help, I think I still have my projects if I remember. I think they're still like on my iPad. I can always pull them up too and like look at them.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I did wanna I don't know if this matters or not, but for the low exercises that are due tomorrow,
Mhm.
it says on the Canvas page that it's 38, 39, and 40. On the syllabus, it says 38, 39, 40, and 42. So I don't know, like I resubmitted because I didn't attach 42 at first. I didn't know if that matters or not, if that was okay.
Yeah, it's fine if you just resubmit it. I'll look at it and email her and ask her which ones, if she wants 42 included, because if it's different on both, then whether or not somebody adds it or not, it shouldn't penalize you guys because it's different. So,
Okay.
but you should be fine resubmitting it because you did it before the deadline. So
Okay.
you're good.
All right, thank you.
So I should do 42 just in case.
You can do 42 just in case, yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, it shouldn't penalize anybody because it's different compared to the syllabus and just on Canvas. But I mean, it can't hurt you to do another one.
Okay. Cool.
So I'll send
And
up.
when you're talking about like project 4 and 5 with the lesson plan, does she grade kind of harshly? Like, is she like um nitpicking?
No, I'm pretty sure with the projects, I want to say she almost grades for completion
Oh
rather than
yeah.
like
Okay.
looking at everything because it is so new to you guys. So she can't like break stuff down to everybody. That'll be more with your clinical speech prep and speech where you start to learn about the different lesson plans and how to write soaps and stuff. You'll get like detailed feedback on all of that type of stuff.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. But if you guys have any other questions, you are more than welcome to ask me. If not, you guys are good to go and I will post the session.
I have one more quick question.
Mhm.
So articulation testing does that typically look like the Goldman Fristo or however you say it, like the one word spontaneous like naming of pictures, whereas connected speech sample is usually like maybe play where you're just kind of more spontaneous, natural conversational speech?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You got it. You're good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. But if you guys don't have anything else for me, then you guys